All right, so there's your car. Let's do another demo. A tree. Okay. Let me get this pencil again. And what is a tree? Tree is an organic shape, right? Someone had asked about organic shapes. But what is a tree made up of? It is made up of a whole bunch of these and a whole bunch of these. So if you can draw spheres and you can draw cylinders, you can draw a tree. So let's figure out what's our tree going to look like. It's going to look like a big sphere here. You're going to have a little one here, a smaller one here. And then I want to make sure my trunk is probably going to be about this big. And then I'm going to have smaller cylinders branching out. Okay. Yeah, let's do like that. Do another one back there. Okay, so this is my truck. Now I got to make sure that I'm figuring out how these spheres actually fit into this section by doing that. And then remember we wanted to cut pieces out. Well, a tree is going to have these pieces cut out. So I'm actually going to cut off the bottoms of my spheres like that. Okay, so this is my underdrawing. And remember when we practice doing, you know, these lines out like this, or you, let's draw this again. So you take your cylinder and you draw the lines around it like that. You want to make sure that these lines get closer around the edges and thicker around the middle. Same thing's going to happen here with the tree. It's going to get bigger around the center. These lines are, and closer together around the edges. Now, let's draw over the top of it with my line work. And I'll make a new layer here and tone this layer down. I forgot to add tone to the car, so I'll do it to the tree once I get this. Okay, so tree. Now my line work, I'm going to start adding a little bit of texture, a little bit of variety to it. I'm going to come in here, you know, do like that, simulate bark, and then because I know these things are overlapping.
So how do you know that they're overlapping?
Because of how I've drawn. I guess I haven't been too clear on how they are down there.
Well, that's a tough one. I mean, that's a hard one
too. That these things come like this. That one's going away like that. You know, this.
So again, it comes down to if you have the question on what's overlapping, if you finish drawing it through, it'll give you the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so because that's kind of going away, I'm going to use my line work to, am I on the right? Oh, here we go. Use my line work. I want that one coming forward and this one going away again. Okay, then trees, because this is my base shape for the tree, now I'm going to go in and add little curly lines for leaves. But I'm going to make sure these leaves sort of follow the edge of the cutout that I did. And this is a really simple tree, obviously, but the principle applies. Okay, and I know that these intersect with it right here, so I'm just going to do a little bit of a line implying that. Okay, and then I'm going to go in, just tone down this layer even more.
So David's saying, can you comment on how you would make the leaves not look super repetitive? Bring that organic.
Yeah,
Is there any
so
trick to
super
that?
repetitive is when you get into symbol mode, right? So remember, the brain thinks waves should be drawn like this, when in reality waves are like that.
It's
so,
hard to do that, isn't it?
Yeah, so what you do is you just make sure you probably have a dominant shape, followed by less dominant shapes, followed by very tiny dominant shapes. So you can see here dominant, tiny, 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 dominant, you know, not quite as dominant as that, but this is my medium one, tiny, tiny, medium, tiny, 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 you know. It's just figuring out a nice way to do that. But you see here, I'm adding bark now, little bark lines, but they're getting really close around the edges and a little bit farther apart in the middle. And that just adds into helping the eye understand that these things are round, not flat 2x4s. Okay, now I'm going to add tone.
And while you're doing that, Eddie's wondering, do organic shapes are they also based in geometric shapes? It's more adding an element of randomness, right? Is that?
Yeah. So the geometric shape that I based this tree on was cylinders and spheres. And this is a really basic tree. But I'll draw a more complex one for you and show you what I'm thinking when I draw a more complex one. So I'm using tone to push back the bottom side of those, and then I'm just applying that same thing that I talked about, where we're going to have the top part of it lighter and the bottom part darker. And all of a sudden what tone is doing is it's really defining the shape of the tree, the canopy. Now this one, remember, I want things pushed forward and back, so I want this one to feel like it's closer than this one, so I'm going to make these things darker a little bit, and now these things come forward because they're lighter. That was the dark light principle, putting something light over something dark. Okay, so that's tree. Let me show you. Actually, I'll talk about organic shapes, not with the tree, but with the next one, a character, if you guys want.